I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
And this is Crusher Convo.
And welcome to Crusher Convo, where we're crushing the conversation one episode at a time. It is Beverly Crusher Day, everyone, and I am joined by fellow Bevhead and writer Ryan to discuss the top 10 moments that define Beverly's legacy. Thank you, Ryan, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. It's been a long time coming. I'm a fan of the podcast. Had great conversations with you. So I'm glad we get to talk about our favorite redhead today.
I'm so excited, so excited. Now, before we jump in, I'm going to talk about my sponsor real fast, Cherry Tree Incorporated. If you love computers and keyboards and even your own Rectagino mug, head over to Cherry Tree and use my code CrusherConvo6 to get 6% off your order. You can go do that at mycherrytree.com and follow them on the socials at Cherry Tree Incorporated. All right. So, Ryan, real quick question. What is your trek and why?
What is my trek? Well, I am an original series guy, I have to admit. As much as I love, Beverly Crusher. I grew up on the original series. That was my first love, and nothing can replace that first love. I am a Captain Kirk guy. That was my guy when I was a kid. I wanted to be him. I wanted to, wear the uniform and all that stuff. And I have several of them in my closet. So, but yes, the original series was my show, and I was also a very big fan of the Next Generation when it premiered. I was very excited for it, and I also had a series of Next Generation uniforms as well.
Perfect. Love it. But speaking of your favorite character, you just mentioned your favorite doctor is Beverly Crusher, this, our redheaded doctor. And you are a writer. So you decided to write a spec script about Beverly. And it's called Star Trek Oath. So can you tell the listeners a little bit about this story that you created?
Yeah, well, it started as a social media challenge by Gates McFadden on what used to be Twitter. I had just innocuously had tweeted out, I'd love to see a pilot, or I'd love to see a show about Beverly Crusher on the frontier after the premiere of Star Trek Picard. And she tweeted back, she goes, write it, send it to me. And so I did. I was like, challenge accepted. And I wrote a script that takes place after the third season of Star Trek Picard, in which Admiral Beverly Crusher has been unceremoniously discharged from Starfleet for mysterious reasons. And she is now leading a ragtag team of doctors on the frontier past the Horsehead Nebula, helping worlds that the Federation has forgotten. And that's just a setup for a longer mystery. That would have, if it was a series that, I delved into why she left Starfleet a second time. There is a very good reason. There's very good reasons, and who she's out there doing other things than just helping people. But I really wanted to show that was mostly a medical drama that was centered on what Beverly does best, and that's saving lives and tying into that need of hers to help everyone, no matter who they are. And I came up with the concept of Oath as the title because Beverly is bound by two oaths as a character, which is an interesting dramatic tension. She's got her Hippocratic Oath, and as a Starfleet officer, she has her oath to the Prime Directive. And those two oaths are often in conflict with one another. And I really wanted to explore what would Beverly be like if she didn't have to always adhere to the Prime Directive, but yet that is still a specter over her, given her service in Starfleet. and that would lead to interesting drama. And I, created for her a whole crew of doctors. And basically, I wrote it from the perspective that Beverly is the captain, so to speak. She's not the traditional starship captain. She's not in the center seat, but she is the lead of the show. So she must drive the show. So, and I kept asking myself, what would a show be like if Beverly was literally the captain, right? In so many words, and how would she approach those sort of captainy decisions and the risks and all of that? And I came time to the point where it's like every captain gives a speech at the end, and then I was like, I got there and I had already planned that Beverly was going to give a speech, and then at the end I'm like, actually no, Beverly would actually step aside and let someone else give this speech because she's about helping the people. She's not about being like the center of the change. She's not Picard, right? And it took me a while to get there because I had always like, she's going to do the Picard speech, she's going to do the Picard speech, she's going to do the Picard speech. And I get to writing that scene, and I'm like, she's telling me, no, I'm not going to I'm not going to do the Picard speech. It's like, get out of my head, Beth. I'm the writer. Let me do my thing. So, but it is very much, and there's a cast of characters of doctors that she has that are very young doctors that, had, if it was a series that I would have further developed relationships with. And there were some things from TNG that I did want to bring back, including something that's on our list today.
Oh, I'm excited about that. I think you are channeling Beverly perfectly because Beverly did always have that conflict between the Prime Directive and her Hippocratic Oath. And that's why her scenes with Picard were so engaging because he very, supported the Prime Directive and she supported the Hippocratic Oath. And so that was what was so brilliant about that. But, I love how Bev is talking in your head. You're like, no, I want to do this. But you as a fan know how it works. Like you understand that character. So, I mean, I'm going to, Sean, sign me up. Sign me up. Let's do it.
You can read the script on the stunt list.
Yes.
It's out there. So.
Yeah, I will repost that on my socials. So if anyone hasn't read it yet, I absolutely loved it. I think I read it in one sitting.
Oh, that's the best thing a writer can ever hear. That I kept you entertained, right? That's the whole goal. Is like, can I keep you from the beginning to the end? And if I can't, I haven't done my job right. And it is the most viral. It was one of the most viral scripts on the stunt list. And
nice.
I think they just recently republished it again under their most viral scripts or something. But I think all of you, especially you, Jesse, you gave me some great notes and energy, and all the other Bev heads also did, and it was a very fun thing. And I did send it to Gates, and I hear she has the script, but she's just waiting for a lull in her schedule to actually sit down and digest it. So. No promises. That's the way the business works. You write these things as a calling card, and you hope for the best. And but it was. I think it's the best. It's one of the best things I've written in years. To be honest, I'm very proud of it. I like, it's a very Christian story. I tried to keep up with the social commentary aspect of Star Trek and all of that, but in an entertaining sort of action adventure. Space western kind of frontier arena, very much inspired by How Gun Will Travel, except How Hypo Will Travel is Beverly's motto. And so, it was a fun write. I loved writing that character. And if that's the last thing I write, featuring Beverly Crusher, I'll be happy because, I got it out of my system, and, I would love to continue writing for that character. Whether it's for Paramount or IDW, I'm also for hire there.
Yeah, I know, right? You're like, hey, just so you're aware.
Hey, I'm here too.
Hey, we could do maybe a comic book of Oath if it doesn't get to be turned into a
exactly. I mean, it's
book,
whatever.
Come on.
I'm open to whatever format it takes, but I had a hoot doing it. It was a moment as a Trekkie. To be honest, like wait a second. Gates McFadden followed me, and then she asked me to write a script for her character?
Check.
What?
You're like, I'm done.
I'm like, okay,
I
I've
was
lived
like,
the dream. I know. Whatever it is else
can't
I do in
top
my
the
career, I've
bar.
lived the dream, right? Yeah, I've lived the dream
Right.
already, right?
Yeah.
But it was just a very thrilling moment, and I just remember the the response. Like I think even Terry Farrell got into it, and just like everyone responding. That all my friends were hitting me up, going like, "Are you serious? Beverly Crusher hit you up?" It's like, "Oh yeah."
No big deal.
It's no
It's
big
fine.
deal.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
friends.
It's
You know,
we're
like,
all close. Yeah. In
I
the
still
same
I
circle.
still I still look at that tweet and go like, "Oh my god, what is my life?"
Yeah, back when Gates had followed me on Twitter, I'm not on Twitter anymore, and I still call
Yeah,
it
neither
Twitter.
am I. Yeah, me
Um,
too.
but
It's the app
she
that
had
shall always be named Twitter.
correct. It is the Bird app. Well, I had said something about after Picard season 3. I used to wake up at 1 in the morning and watch the show and do all this stuff and go ready for work at 4 in the morning. And I wrote it all out. And Gates saw it, and she's like, "You crazy loving woman," or something like that. I was like, Gates McFadden called me crazy. All right.
Yeah,
Good to go.
that's a good
I'll take
compliment.
that as a compliment. But speaking of Gates and speaking of her character, this is what it's all about. Celebrating
Yeah.
Beverly Crusher. I am donning Gates McFadden's official design of Beverly being born on the Luna colony on
She's a
October
lunar
13th.
schooner.
She is 2324, so she'll be born in 299 years. So let's go ahead and jump right in it. And I, have little clips here. And so we're going to talk about Beverly Crusher. Now, of course, me and Ryan put our heads together trying to think of these top 10 moments. And hopefully we have agreed with all the listeners here today. But the first one we are going to discuss is an absolute favorite. It is a total, everyone talks about this episode, whether you love Beverly or not. It is from Remember Me.
Computer, what is that mist I'm seeing?
Sensors indicate it to be a mass energy field 705 meters in diameter.
It surrounds the ship.
Affirmative.
There's nothing wrong with me. Maybe there's something wrong with the universe. Computer, what is beyond the mass energy field?
Sensors cannot penetrate the field.
Here's a question you shouldn't be able to answer. Computer, what is the nature of the universe?
The universe is a spheroid region 705 meters in diameter.
This was like a one-woman show, right? She's by herself, no one else there for her to bounce off of. And that's what I love about Remember Me. She did have the computer, but I loved her little back and forth with the computer, her being sarcastic with the computer. So just absolutely enjoy this episode. And this was one of your picks as well. What is it about Remember Me that you love so much, especially when it comes to Beverly's character?
Well, it gets to the heart of her biggest fear as a human being. And we get a hint of that starting in Arsenal of Freedom. when she talks about losing her family and growing up with her grandmother teaching her all about the roots and the herbs and all this stuff. And she's lost so many people in her life. She lost Jack Senior. She was Wesley at some point, and she's deep down, she's really lonely. And what I like about it is that it gets to what drives her as a doctor. She doesn't want to save a life. She wants to save every life that she can. She doesn't want to lose anyone under her watch. And that's what I love about this episode. It's this kooky, sci-fi thing, but at the heart of it, it's about a woman who's lonely, who is deathly afraid she's going to lose even more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what's also good about this episode too is that it does involve Wesley, right? Because
Yes.
he accidentally put his mom through the warp bubble. Oops, sorry, Mom. So, but it's true because it all started with her missing Jack when she was talking to Dalen Quace, and that's what started this whole thing of she's losing people. And of course, people always, fans of Beverly and all that stuff kind of wondered, like, why is it Picard that was the last person? It was because she cared for him, I think, which I think is partly true, but I think because of how this create whatever she created from her thoughts was anytime she thought of someone, they disappeared. So like all of a sudden she was all like, we need to talk to Worf, and then instantly he's gone and they're like, who's Worf? And then same with Wesley, right? So and that's just, as Wesley was saying, like thought is one of the most important aspects of anything, and that was proof of it. Now, of course, Ed from My Figure Universe, who is in the chat, says he asks every day, I ask myself the same thing of, there's nothing wrong with me, there must be something wrong with the universe. He also does say that she lost the Enterprise for an entire season, and he is wearing my Wesley Crusher shirt today. That is his way of celebrating. And Sarah, going back to before we started talking about Remember Me, Sarah does say, Ryan, you're living my dream. I want to write for Legacy when it's greenlit. Wishful thinking. So,
hey, dream big, Sarah.
You never know.
I'm still hoping for that wish too myself. So you never know.
Absolutely.
Just dream big.
You never know. But I said, everyone mentions Remember Me. They even think, not even just as a Beverly episode, is one of the top Star Trek episodes, is just how well it was. It's very sci-fi, and like you said, it's kooky. It has all these different things, and Gates was just the perfect person to kind of lead that, right? Now, there's also another episode though that I hear from a lot of fans that say this is the episode when I fell in love with Beverly Crusher. And it was more, I think, on my list. I can't remember if it was on yours, but it was The High Ground.
Picard to Dr. Crusher.
Go ahead.
Doctor, Commander Data has informed me of your situation.
I already know what you're going to say.
Doctor, will you at least
The
allow me
longer
to...
we argue, the longer it's going to take me to say.
Doctor, you are endangering yourself and the away team.
Captain, I'm trying to put life back into a wounded body with sleight of hand. I'm not going anywhere. Data and Worf don't have to stay. Crusher out.
Transporter room, do you have a lock on the away team?
Aye, sir. Shall I transport them?
I don't want to be in the transporter room, Decreter.
That is like one of my favorite scenes ever.
Mine too.
Riker's all like, I'm not gonna piss her off. That's on you, Picard. I'm not doing it. And this goes back to what you were saying about how she wants to save everybody. Beverly jumped into action the moment that bomb went off, and she is trying to save every single person that is injured, even if it means her own safety is at risk. And of course it was, because she gets kidnapped and is held hostage because they needed a really good doctor. And so in this sense, was there anything in The High Ground that really stuck out to you where you were like, oh my gosh, Beverly is like A, B, and C, right?
Yeah. This is the Beverly I love in this episode. This is the Beverly, especially from the first season, where she has more of an edge to her. And I love that the crew fears her. I really love Riker fearing. Like, I don't want to be in the train. I don't want that smoke. Because she is a force to be reckoned with when she gets, when she knows what's morally and ethically right. She is just, boom. And I love in this episode that she does it. She stands up to, the leader of the terrorist group or the leader of the revolutionary group, whichever way you want to look at it. And I love that this episode also has a discussion. Are they terrorists or are they revolutionaries? Are they oppressed or are they, whatever? And I love that this kind of gets into that complication of like IRA and all that at the time, right? But it's this universal theme of oppressed people fighting for themselves. and how Beverly's like, but you're killing people in this, and do the methods justify the means? And so there's all this moral ambiguity and ethical ambiguity that Beverly is navigating in that episode, but she's still being Beverly and saying, like, you're killing yourselves with this stupid device,
Yeah.
And she doesn't hesitate. She will save lives no matter what, even if it's the enemy or if it's an ally. She doesn't care. A life is a life, and that's what's important. And my favorite line of hers is, I'm trying to put life back in a wounded body with sleight of hand. It's my hands down my favorite Beverly line, other than the if there's nothing wrong with me. That's just classic.
That's just classic. Yeah, that's
It's
just a
just
classic
classic.
Beverly line. Beverly had so many good lines that there's no wrong. There's no wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I genuinely loved about The High Ground is it was written by Melinda Snodgrass, who gave us Measure of a Man. And like you said, she really touched those points of like, are they a terrorist group or are they, which was kind of the same thing in like Star Wars, right? The rebels were really like a terrorist group, but they were being revolutionary in the sense that they were going against the big man. But, in this sense, to her, there was no black and white. Like you said, there was that people are injured, I need to help them. Even when he was like, why are you sending medical supplies? She's like, because people were hurt. Like in her mind, it didn't really matter. She was like, but they were hurt. We needed to send it. But then she kind of was thinking like, well, are we supporting that though? Are we not? Like, it starts to question everything. And it got her to think of like, what part did we play in this? And did we do more harm than good? So I love The High Ground. I think it is fantastic. And Ed says it's an honorable way of being.
It
Absolutely.
is.
And this is why we love
Absolutely.
Beverly
Life is
Crusher.
life.
Exactly.
Life is life.
Now, of course, there was another episode that, she wants to save lives and do the best she can. But in her mind, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of scenario. And in her mind, in this sense, it was when Worf injured his back, she's like, yes, your life is about to change. This is what's going to happen. But this is the safer option to live versus trying to do this surgery. And I know you had mentioned this on your list, and you had your quote was the desperation of an injured man. I really, though, wanted to highlight this scene that she had with Dr. Russell. And so here is that ending monologue that she had in Ethics.
I am delighted that Worf is going to recover. You gambled, he won. Not all of your patients are so lucky. You scare me, Doctor. You risk your patients' lives and justify it in the name of research. Genuine research takes time. Sometimes a lifetime of painstaking, detailed work in order to get any results. Not for you. You take shortcuts. Right through living tissue. You put your research ahead of your patients' lives. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a violation of our most sacred trust. I'm sure your work will be hailed as a stunning breakthrough. Enjoy your laurels, Doctor. I'm not sure I could.
Mic drop. Mic drop.
Damn.
And the thing is like, she's a like, research takes years because you want to make sure that you find the right solution to save the lives. And what Russell was doing was the opposite. Let's just try and get as much data no matter who dies. And Beverly was not for that. But of course, it was Worf's decision. He is a Klingon. They have those honorable, I guess, ideas. But to her, when he had died for that moment, she was so angry. And I don't think she was more angry at Russell. She was angry at herself of like, I should have listened. I should have listened to my gut. I knew this was a bad idea. I shouldn't have listened to Bakar. Like, she was probably just going in circles. And I'm curious, though, because like I said, your quote was the desperation of an injured man. what is it about this particular episode with Beverly going against Russell that you find great about her character and how it really highlights who she is?
Right. Well, Beverly's a scientist. And I think the clip that you picked illustrates that. She is a scientist as well as a doctor. And she knows that scientific research and scientific methodology takes time. It can't be rushed. But what I like about the conflict in this episode is that someone who has taken the same oath to do no harm is doing harm not just in the advancement of medical science to help more people, but in the advancement of her own ego and her own notoriety, right?
Right.
She's taking these shortcuts because she wants to be remembered as someone who has created something great that has helped all of, you know, uh, alien kind, right? She's not in it for the lives. She's in it for the fame, in a way, at least for my interpretation of the episode. And she is a most dangerous doctor. She's the worst kind of doctor I could ever imagine being near. Is that, and I've had doctors who feel a little cold and dismissive and arrogant, and it's like, why are you in it? Are you in it to help people, or are you just in it for yourself? And Beverly's is the kind of doctor I want. I want a doctor who's in it for the lives and for the people, who genuinely love people. When Russell uses that experimental drug treatment against using the proven treatment that would have saved that guy's life, that is a gross, grotesque misuse of her position. And she tried to justify it as, well, we've had some success with this treatment. I made a call as a doctor, but you knew the other treatment would have saved his life regardless. And you went against that? Girl, you ain't a doctor. You're a sadist, and you are not someone I would want in a sick bay.
I love this episode because Toby Russell was very excited to work with Beverly because she had mentioned about the regeneration and, all the stuff that Beverly was writing in, science books and magazines, whatever you want to call it, journals. And so, at first she's like this fangirl around Beverly, and then all of a sudden they have this conflict because Beverly just cannot see where Russell's coming from, because in her mind, it's always about the science. It's always about the patients. It's always about, that's the number one. And so I love that conflict of someone outside of the ship, right? So we could hate this person all we want. It wasn't someone she had to work with that we've known, like Riker or Troy, whoever. It was someone outside that, we can try and hear her side of the story, but we know that Beverly is right in this aspect, especially because this is her friend. She doesn't want something to happen to him, so the stakes are higher. And I love ethics. I loved just her having to tell Alexander that Worf had died was such a very powerful scene, because doctors go through that all the time. Beverly even mentioned that in All Good Things. Like, you always have to be the bearer of bad news. And you can kind of see that, but this was something like probably remembering when she had to tell Wesley that Jack died, and she was going through the motions. She was definitely going through the motions.
And there's some great acting in that scene too.
So much great acting. Now, Ed, going back to the high ground, he said there's a fine line between heroism and terrorism, and it's usually defined by the victors.
Yeah.
And I think they even mentioned that actually in the high ground, right?
Yeah, his entire speech about George Washington.
Right.
It touches on that. Yeah, very very astute right there.
Exactly. And we do have Captain Squadron in the chat. Thank you for joining us tonight. Captain on the bridge. I Captain. But, a lot of these picks that we have here really just showcase just how great Beverly is. And that's the whole point of today's episode. But this next one, we're kind of shifting 30 years later. And this is the science aspect that you were talking about. This is a clip from No Win Scenario.
It's a wonderful idea, Jean-Luc, but in a moment, 100 things could go wrong. I cannot choose certain death.
Deanna would say it's about trust. Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
Now, of course, in this episode, they're all trapped and things are happening, but it's her science part of her brain that she's realizing. She's counting these hits. She's realizing like it's contractions. This is what's going to happen. But she knows that she can't do it alone. As much as the pressure was on her shoulders to be like, hey, we need to get out of this nebula, and you kind of had the answer for it. She needed everybody. And she's like, we can do this because we're doing it together and we trust each other. And that was one thing that we always loved about the TNG crew. I mean, all the shows really, but particularly with TNG, like LeVar said, it was lightning in a bottle. They all worked together like just like perfect harmony. And we got that back in season 3. No Win Scenario is probably one of the top favorites among all fans because of just, it is a straight up Trek episode. And it has all those elements of action and the technobabble and of course the heart and the drama. But everyone loves this episode. I love it. However, I didn't really feel it was needed in season 3 because we only got 10 episodes and trying to go with the story and trying to get to the finale. Yeah. It didn't do much in the sense of with Jack and the Borg and all of that kind of stuff, right? Now I get it. They had to get out and we had to deal with Riker's issues and we had to deal with Picard's, and that's fine. But as a whole, with the overall story, I felt like it was kind of misplaced. But as a standalone, I think it's brilliant. Yeah. Was there anything in No Win Scenario that you loved or wish you saw more of since it was kind of standalone in this whole arc?
Yeah, well, because I grew up on TOS and TNG a lot, I love the more episodic nature of Star Trek than I do the serialized storytelling of Star Trek. And this is my favorite episode of Star Trek Picard. That and the finales, because the Enterprise D is back. I didn't even think I'd ever see that ship ever again. But this is my favorite, and also because this is a great character study. I think this episode was necessary in order to move the characters forward. The three older characters or mature characters of Beverly, Riker, and Picard. And what I love about this scene that we just showed is that Beverly, in Beverly's way, is just telling these two old men to get over yourselves and let's do the job we know we can do. Because these two men are very broken in this episode. They're very broken in this show at this point in their lives, right? And also considering what Picard just went through in the second season. So she's like, dude, get your mojo in line. Let's do what we do best. Like, I've only been back in Starfleet for like a day and I'm already on top of it. You guys have been here for what? How many days?
It's like, what is going on here? And one thing that I love her speech, but the one thing I hate though about this scene, and that's why I cut it out, is that she says this whole speech and Riker's just like, ugh, and walks away. And it has Picard basically just repeating what she said in Picard's, and Riker's like, all right, let's do it. And I'm like, oh, piss off.
It's
Riker.
so Picard though. it's so Picard. Wait, let me pontificate it better in my
I'm just
accent,
like,
and then everyone will go along with it.
that's basically what happened. I was all like, so you guys are doing exactly what Beverly wanted to do, but yeah, I
Yeah,
digress. But
I just imagine, like, I wish there was like this sideshow that happened on TNG where we would just get to see Beverly and Deanna talk about how bad the men are sometimes on the show, and just be
right,
all positive. You know, if they just listened to us in the first place, none of this would have happened the way it happened.
that would have been like every episode. That's
That would
like
have
the
been
opposite of the
it
Beck
could be like a
for
sub-series
sure,
of Next Generation, right? These two
for
just
sure.
like, the men.
For sure. I mean, what was it to be? I want to say it was the battle in season 1 where, the Ferengi
Yeah.
was controlling Picard's mind. And of course, it was the women who was looking and trying to figure it out. And Wesley came in and said, "Hey, this looks like the same that I'm seeing in engineering." But it was the women who had to go to Riker and be like, "Hey, this is what's happening." But it's just like, but
Yeah.
then Riker kind of took, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Who told
Didn't flow
you?
right.
I just watched that on Pluto today. I was like, yeah, Riker's like, who told you? And she's like, my son, you idiot. Do something.
Yeah, just do it. Don't, Now, a boy named Art has joined the chat and it went hashtag Picardsplaining.
Oh, that's my boy
exactly
Art.
what
That's a friend of mine, Art. And yes,
Hi,
Picard
Art.
explaining.
And it's true. It's very true. Oh my
Picard
gosh.
explaining.
But what's funny is that in this next episode we're about to talk about, there was no Picard explaining because he didn't know about this side of Beverly before and he was very interested. And this is another aspect of Beverly where we're like, oh my gosh, she's so smart. She learned all these different things. And this is when we get to find out about how Beverly grew up, and it was an arsenal of freedom.
Talk to me. Stay away. Tell me something. Tell me about those roots. How did you know of their medicinal values?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother was a doctor.
No,
Oh, she was a botanist then.
no. She helped to colonize Arvada 3.
Aveda 3. That's such a tragedy. Did she survive?
Yes. Once the medical supplies had run out, she had to use what was at hand. So she learned all about roots and herbs, and then taught it to me.
You were part of that colony. I didn't know that. Then there must be a lot of things about you that I don't know.
Quite a few.
So, of course, here's Beverly injured and Picard really outside of his comfort zone here. But we learn that she was in a planetary disaster and her grandmother had to learn about roots and herbs and all that stuff to provide healing of some kind when they ran out of medical supplies. And this was actually the path of her, like, I want to be a doctor, I want to help people. But she was very quick to be like, hey, Picard, check those roots, see if it does this. You can, stop the bleeding this way. And that was what was so cool, is that she thinks outside the box.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to mention this to my listeners, please forgive me, but Pulaski had kind of the same aspect, because in season 2, when all of the biobeds and everything was going haywire, they were like, hey, there's a broken leg, what do we do? She's like, splint. Grab a piece of wood, plastic. Come on, let's do this. Let's get this going. And of course, that guy was all like, "That's not medicine." She's like, "It is old-fashioned medicine, and it still works." Like, she was just like, "Go do it." And I was all like, Beverly would have been like, "You go, girl." Like, yes,
Yeah.
let's go.
I think they're pen pals, to be honest. I think Pulaski
Right?
and Beverly are pen pals,
think they're
especially
buds.
Pulaski.
Seriously.
I think they talk smack about Jean-Luc behind his back in their subspace communiques to each other.
Love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. No, I think they are friends. I really do. I think they're
think they're
besties
friends, yeah.
outside. I do. I mean,
Yeah.
they definitely had the same level of respect. Pulaski is not Toby Russell, for sure.
Not Toby Russell.
Now, with knowing this extra bit of information of Beverly from Arsenal of Freedom, and of course we learn, a little bit more in that in Sub Rosa because, her grandmother was a healer. Did it surprise you Beverly knew this extra stuff, or was like,
No,
of course she does?
of course she does. No. It this is one of the episodes in the first season. It's like one of my. It is the favorite, I think, of the first season. And her knowing this, I actually was going to include a flashback in my script to the Aveda disaster, but I took it out because it took up too much time. And I was like, I'm going to save that for later. But I what I love most about this episode, that even injured, she's like, okay, you use this route, you do this. This is how you take care of me, Jean-Luc. Did you not take Starfleet first aid?
Shout out to my friend Jay, who was like, as a captain, he should have known how to do a splint first aid, like something.
Did you? I mean, he's tearing up her jacket at least as for bandages. But like, did he not know to elevate her legs so that she didn't bleed out? Like, he just didn't know the basics, and she's like,
not even just the bleeding out. He was like, "Oh, your arm's fine." She's like, "I got another wound because you didn't look for other injuries." Like, I'm just dying over here. No big deal.
But what's the best part of this episode? The best part is she's in and out of consciousness. She's trying to stay awake, and yet she's the one at the end of the episode that is like, "Why don't you just pull the plug on the damn thing? I'm bleeding here. We need to get back to the ship. Pull the plug.
Just shut it off."
Like, oh, can we shut it off, Data? And I'm like, she's still smarter than the two men that are like fully conscious.
Art. Hashtag Picard's explaining.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, we can do that.
Very friend, but that's when we see that side of Beverly too, where she's just really like sarcastic, where she's like, just pull the plug, shut it off, just
pull
please.
the plug.
For the love of God, guys, like, come on. Sarah does say in the chat that she too believes that Pulaski and her are friends, and she says that she is currently writing a fanfic about Beverly's childhood.
Well, I look forward to reading that, Sarah.
I love that. Sarah has amazing fanfic. Now, this next one was always a favorite when it comes to this. And what I love about this scene is just, and this was actually a you scene, is the fun side to Beverly. The side outside of her being a doctor and outside of her, science and things like that. And so here is a scene from Data's Day.
And you say you've never done this before? Try this. Not bad.
Love it. Love the tap dancing. As everyone knows, Gates is an amazing tap dancer. She does choreography, all that stuff. She was 4.5 months pregnant in that scene. And what was funny is when I first saw Data's Day, there's a moment where she kind of brushes her stomach a little bit. And for some reason, as pregnant women, we would just subconsciously just touch her stomach. And I was like, huh, that's weird. I was like, I wonder if she was pregnant. And sure enough, I Googled it. I was like, and I was like, freaking A, she's tap dancing and doing it. No, I got exhausted just watching her. But this was the fun side of Beverly. She loved Data. She loved being his friend. She was like, sure, I will go teach you how to dance. And that was what was so great about Beverly. This was actually a moment that you chose. So what is it about the fun side of Beverly that you enjoy so much?
Well, you get to see, we don't really get to see the characters a lot away from their jobs. And, Star Trek is a lot focused on these are the people at their jobs, right? And there's very much rarely these are these people as people away from their jobs. And what I liked about this is that it began to open Beverly up as someone who is pretty much a musical theater kid.
Right. Right.
Because she's a dancer, and then she leads the theater troupe on the
Yeah.
ship as well.
Yeah.
So it opens her up to this more creative side that is not tied to her being a scientist or being a doctor. And it gives her more of a flavor, but also it gives a chance to show off Gates McFadden's talents as a dancer and as a theater actor, right? She was brought up in the theater, and she was the choreographer for the Jim Henson Company on many productions. And I didn't realize until later how much of her as a choreographer had touched parts of my childhood with the Dark Crystal and things of Labyrinth and things of those nature, right? And I love that she gets to have a life where she's not defined as she's the chief medical officer, or she's Picard's love interest, or she's Wesley's mom. She's Beverly, and she likes to do these other things.
I love that you mentioned how Gates was part of our childhood more than we thought, because I was born in 85. Labyrinth came out, I believe, in 86. And so my older brother and sister would watch the movie. And of course, I didn't understand any of it because I was so little. But the ballroom scene, because I loved to dance as I was a kid. I was in tap and all that stuff. But the ballroom scene, I watched that over and over and over again. And to know that Gates had choreographed it, I was like, oh my gosh, she was part of my childhood before I even know. And I loved Mad About You. That was one of my favorite shows in the 90s. And she played Paul's boss. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah. About that. Yes.
I love it. And she
I love that show too.
And she did Dream Child. And so she did the puppeteering for Jim, because of Jim Henson, but she didn't get the credit for it because, I don't know, something about passports or something, whatever. But, it's one of those things where I'm all like, mind blown. But like you said, this is showcasing Beverly as a person instead of labeling her as like Picard's love interest, Wesley's mom, the doctor.
Yeah.
And it does showcase this and Gates's talents, and so but it's nice to have those lighthearted moments on this show because serious things are happening, and it's nice to have these lighthearted moments in like Data's day to just kind of relax. We're not in this crisis all the time, but the one thing though about Beverly. And one of the most important things about her is that she is a mom. And the very first, I believe, chief medical officer who was a parent, who was running this department. And so for me, I wanted to highlight that she is a single mom with a career, which we never really got to see very often, especially back in the 80s and 90s. No. And I was a single mom for many years. I married my husband when my daughter was 8. And so I felt connected. And that's what drew me to love Beverly Crusher, is because of that aspect, something that I felt represented by. And also that the age gap was the same. So the age gap between Will and Gates is the same as me and my daughter. So as I'm watching these scenes, I was like, oh my gosh, my daughter does that all the time, and I'm like going down that rabbit hole. But I love those moments. And I picked this scene that I'm about to show with Wesley because I totally get it. And I'll explain why. But here is Beverly as a boy mom.
There's a low gravity gymnasium too. It'd be hard to get bored on this ship.
Good.
Mom, could you get me a look at the bridge?
That's against the captain's standing orders.
Are you afraid of the captain too?
I certainly am not.
But Captain Picard is a pain, isn't he?
Your father liked him very much. Great explorers are often lonely and have a chance to have a family.
Just to look at the bridge. I'll stay in the turbo lift when the doors open. I won't get off.
You are asking for trouble, Wes. We'll see what we can do.
It's multitasking. Multitasking. I mean, I can't tell you how many times where I am like neck deep in my work and my daughter's like, hey, did you hear about the new blah, blah, blah? And I'm just like, sure. And I'm trying, I'm even at work and she's texting me like, can I go to so-and-so's house because we want, and I'm like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
You don't want to ignore your kid, but you're also like in the middle of something important. And I love how he's like testing her and she's testing him back, and that's how it is when you and your kid have just that bond when it's just you two. There's a uniqueness about it. And so I loved that they showcased that, and I loved that scene. And of course we got a little snippet of how she had feelings for Picard because that was an encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah.
But with her being a single mom and also running a department and being this career woman and stuff like that, do you think that also really just highlighted the character even more to, that she wasn't just a like housewife, like a typical female character, right? Do you think that because she was something different in this aspect of being a single mom with a career that really drew fans to her?
I think so. I think what also drew is that this character, especially that the life that Gates gave her, made the character more. Because originally, in a lot of the early material of TNG, Beverly just drops Wesley off and leaves, and she's not in the show, right? Or then they tried to make her the teacher that Picard had an interest in. And so when they landed that she was the chief medical officer, that she had this complicated past with Picard, is when the character truly coalesced. And I love that. And I actually dislike that the show didn't show Wesley a lot with Beverly. These are rare moments when we get to see Beverly interacting with Wesley, especially when she's trying, when she's trying to give her rights. I remember in an interview where Kate says, like, I'm his mom, yet he spends more time with Riker and Picard than he does with me,
Well, she mentions, she's like, how do you think he learned all this?
Yeah, how do you think he learned all this? Hi, I'm the smart one.
Yeah.
I mean, those two guys don't do anything right unless I'm involved. As we've seen in Arsenal of Freedom.
Yes.
But that's what I loved about her. I also loved like Wesley really tries her a lot. And my actual favorite scene of this episode with Wesley and Beverly is where like Riker goes to talk to them, and Wesley's like, she doesn't dislike men that she doesn't know. She's just shy around them. And Beverly's like, child,
excuse me? Yeah.
child.
We will talk later.
We're gonna talk later.
Yeah, she gave him the mom look, as everyone knows. Okay, so the thing was, but it's so true, right? You have this special relationship, and and stuff. But he did learn everything from his mother.
He did.
That was the whole thing. Like Jack died when he was 5, so anything after that, it came from her.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
She exposed him to so many things so he can learn and grow and find interests, and while doing her own career.
Yeah.
Which is hard work, and it's exhausting, and it's all that stuff. But it's so true to her character that Beverly she's determined. She always puts others first, no matter who they are, even if it hurts her in the end. But this next scene, however, really showcases that a lot. Now, Ed from My Figure says Worf is wondering if he can get some advice on how to drop his kid off places.
That's a whole other podcast. Worf is father.
That's a whole other episode.
It's a whole other podcast. I don't want to touch that issue.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole other hour. We don't have time. Now, we do have Chuck in the chat, and he says, hi, Jesse and Ryan. Thank you, Chuck, for joining. But this next scene, she strives. She's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. And this is our chief medical officer being captain of the Enterprise.
How long will we have before they can detect us and intercept?
If their sensors function as well as ours, it could be as little as 30 seconds.
Crusher to Salazar. How long will it take to get the rest of the crew off the surface?
1 minute should do it.
We don't have 1 minute. How much can you shave off that?
If I could get a good lock on them quickly, I might be able to do it in 45 or 50 seconds.
We need to buy ourselves 15 seconds. Lieutenant, is there any way we can use the planet as a barrier to keep the Borg from realizing we're in orbit?
We can interorbit while they're on the far side of the planet. And if we delay dropping out of warp until the last possible instant, we could gain a few more seconds.
If your calculations are even slightly off, we'd hit the atmosphere.
I'll just have to be sure my calculations are accurate, Ensign.
Let's do it. Helm, hard about.
Aye, sir.
Now here they are going against the Borg again. Picard needs to go down to the surface, and he's trusting Beverly to take care of the Enterprise and captain it. And the thing is that she even mentioned in that episode, Thy Own Self, with Data when he lost his memory, she explains why she wanted to become a commander, and she wanted to learn about, protocols and stay on top of things and captain the Enterprise. And for a doctor, that's very, very rare. Like, you don't ever really see doctors wanting to be a captain, but otherwise they'd be commanders, right? So, but she's like, I wanted to stretch myself a little. I wanted to just learn more and do more and feel it. Can I do it? She was always a very, can I, let's go. And if she can't, she can't, but at least she tried. And she was giving this advice to Deanna because Deanna felt like she needed to stretch herself a little outside of her role as counselor. So I love to see her as the captain. We got to see a little bit of her as Captain Picard, as in All Good Things, where she was leading medical vessels for medical supplies and things like that. Yeah. She was really a captain with the Helios when it came to Picard season 3. And even in your story, she's captaining all, she has that authority and that leadership that we don't really get to see very often, especially with doctors in this sense. So with Beverly leading the charge, I feel like it just added more to the character, and just like, this woman can do so much. Right? Like, there's just so much, and it's very inspiring to see. Do you think that's how the fans really took that with her, especially on this other aspect of her character?
I think so, but I have to be honest. And I know this is on my list, but when I was a kid, having grown up as a Navy brat, I'm like, why is the doctor in charge of this shit? This seems really wrong to me.
It's rare. That's why.
It's rare. It is rare. But we never see boats do that. But what I do love is, I don't know why they didn't give her the Crusher maneuver, because Beverly's signature maneuver is, let's go into the sun. We're going in the sun.
We're going in there.
That's the Crusher maneuver.
I loved that they did bridge those 2 episodes, though. Right? And another fun fact, that actor, as you see there, that lieutenant, he was the one who played Joe Brill in Suspicions.
Yeah. Although he's a little bit of a turd on the bridge. You're like, I'll have to make sure my calculations are right, Lieutenant.
He was. But the ensign got the last word at the end.
But Beverly's really good here. Her nurturing side makes her a good captain, a good leader, because she's able to reassure these junior officers that we can do this. We got this. You guys are doing a good job. And I think that's what actually makes her an even better choice to be a captain, is she has a nurturing aspect to her that makes people want to do their best.
A mothering side, perhaps.
A mothering side, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure. Now, Chuck and Ed are talking in the chat here, but he does say, well, first he says that Jesse and I were 2 vendor tables apart at STLV. Thank you for hanging out. We had so much fun. But he also says that Beverly crushed it as captain, which is very true. J. Marie is
Yes.
late, but thank you for joining. And she says, "Happy birthday, Beverly Crusher." But those moments, it was like, oh my gosh, like you were saying, doctor, scientist, mother, she's captaining a ship, she's learning roots, and like she's a dancer. Beverly Crusher is just this overall amazing character, which is why I think people gravitate towards her. And of course, in this next scene, we're going back to season 3 of Picard, and she did something that we knew she had it in her, but it was so nice to see. It was in The Last Generation, where a lot has happened in 20 years.
Doctor, I didn't have time to work on the weapons system, so you're gonna have to do it manually.
Torpedoes away, locking phasers and returning fire.
A lot's happened in the last 20 years.
Blazing Bev, like that's just it. I mean, she's manually at the the tactical station, just shooting aft thrusters, shooting torpedoes, just boom, boom at everything. That to the point that Geordi, Troy, and Data are like, "What the fuck did we just see?" Like, it was absolutely mind blowing. It was all like, yeah, like Beverly Crusher rocks it. Like us as fans knew, but to see that moment where she's just like kicking ass on the stage. No disrespect, better than Worf, but the thing, just throwing it out there. But sorry, love you, Michael Dorn. Love you, Michael Dorn. But anyways, but the thing is, it's just. This was another reason of like Beverly is everything. She is an all-around package with this. Now, when you, like you said, you were so excited to see the Enterprise D back. Everyone's back together on the bridge. What were your thoughts when all of a sudden you see Beverly?
Yeah,
pew pew everywhere.
Yeah, Beverly's got her badass. She got her badass moment. Like, she's like. It's like the first season Beverly's back. She's like everywhere she's goes, she's got a phaser and she's shooting someone. Like she shows up with the phaser, right? In data lore and in conspiracy, she's ready. So I love that she gets this badass moment. And what I also love about this era of Star Trek, just in general, is that women that are post 50s are action heroes from Gates McFadden to Marina Sirtis. She gets to fly the ship in a way. She gets to Fast and Furious ship in that episode too. And then there's Jerry Ryan and there's Michelle Hurd. Like Picard is filled with these action adventure women who kick ass that are past what Hollywood would consider their prime, which I love. Yeah. And I love that Beverly she gets to show off that like, look, I can kick ass with the best of them, because in The Next Generation, Marina and Gates weren't allowed to kick that much ass.
Right.
And the example I like to use in Cupid is that Gates McFadden is the most trained theatrical swordsman or swordsman.
So was Marina. Right? Yeah.
So was Marina of the acting troupe. And yet all the men had swords and they had to like use pots and vases to subdue the Nottingham gang, right? And I was like, that's such a disservice, because it's like, if I had an actor or actress in my show that was like, oh, I'm theatrically trained in swordplay, and I'm like, well, guess what you're going to be doing every other episode now? I'm putting you in every action scene.
Well, it was the same with her tap dancing. Like the real reason why the tap dancing got added was because Gates, in between her scenes or whatever, they had their little recreational area.
Yeah,
she was dancing. Someone saw her, and they're like, oh, we could use that. And all of a sudden, Beverly is now a tap dancer.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is, but because this was action, it had to go to the men, and the women had to do the, Oh my gosh. But anyways, they were doing Jane Fonda exercises while the boys were playing with swords. The thing is that, this is what Terry was fixing an old problem,
Yeah.
right? He's like, I want to utilize them to their strengths. And that's why Gates loves season 3, because she's like, I got to play Beverly that I always knew that was in her. Right? Like this,
exactly.
I knew this was Beverly, and I finally got to do it because she didn't really get the chance as much. We saw snippets, but she didn't really get to do the chance as much in the whole, 176 episodes or however it was.
And then that's why I made her an action hero in my script too. Like I was like, she's gonna throw the first and last punch in the script,
Right. And like you said, she had a phaser. Like the first 5 minutes of starting of season 3, she is just has that phaser rifle. She's just doing a whole Western in that back of her ship. Now Jane Marie is mentioning that Dayton Ward's book has been pushed to April 2026, which is supposed to take after season 3 of Picard. So we get to see during that year. So I can't wait for Dayton's book. Chuck does say that he got to say hello to Gates at SOV after she was talking with me at my, because Gates came to my table, we were talking, and Chuck got to say hi. So yeah, Gates loves to hang out with the fans. And Chuck also says that he has to now leave the chat. Bye, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you, Chuck, for stopping by. Really appreciate it. And what about the unicycle? Again, the Gates could be on a freaking unicycle, right? And, that would have been hilarious if they added that into TNG. But out of all of these moments that we've brought up, that Beverly is just an all-around woman, there's one thing about Beverly that she single-handedly, this was the whole reason why these people are who they are. And so I picked this because I wanted to showcase it. And it is talking about Beverly de-assimilating Picard.
There is extensive infiltration of the microcircuit fibers into the surrounding tissue. His DNA is being rewritten.
Can you revive him?
I'd like more time to study the structural changes on the motor pathways.
We don't have more time, Doctor. Once he was wired into the Borg, they knew everything that he knew. I just hope it goes both ways. If we're lucky, he had access to everything we need to know about them, especially their vulnerabilities.
Starfleet has implemented a fleet-wide transporter solution to purge our young officers of the Borg infection. A world-saving effort developed by our new head of Starfleet medical branch, Admiral Crusher, who also managed to spearhead technology that privately scans for other irregularities.
So I wanted to bring this up because after, she's learning, right? She's like, I need more time to figure this out. I gotta say, it's rewriting his DNA. She's never seen this before. He has probes, he has nanites, he has implants. She does. This is something that no one's had to deal with before. But the moment that they were able to get, Picard, from Locutus back to Picard, and she was like, it's gonna be no problem getting those implants off of you. I got this. So she brought Picard back to being human again. But it was her technology, it was her research, it was everything that she did of why we got 7 back, right? Because the doctor was able to go back in his database and realize, okay, this is what they do to bring back someone from who was aboard. Same with Hugh, all the XPs that we saw in season 1 of Picard, that was all based off of Beverly's research. And of course, I'm sure it expanded with other scientists, but she was the heart of it. She is the sole reason that people were coming back from being Borgs. And then she decides to use the transporter to be like, let's just take all that DNA and all that, weird stuff that these, young ensigns and our young officers have and reverse it. That is absolutely revolutionary. Okay. And Beverly was the head of that. So again, just an overall thought for Beverly before we just talk real fast about our honorable mentions. Beverly is just a smart, amazing person, and it doesn't surprise me. She was the whole reason of this whole Borg thing. Sadly, she was the first one to give birth to an organic Borg, but that's a whole other story. So ironic she can de-assimilate, and then she also gives birth to them. But what are your final thoughts of this whole? We just hit those 10 on this list, and seeing just the revolutionary thing that she did with Picard. When it comes to just Beverly's character.
Well, it all goes back, and I think one of the things that I want to highlight about her experience at the Borg is she's also the voice of reason when Picard and everyone else are like, we're going to use Hugh to exterminate the Borg, and she's the lone voice of reason. She's like, these are life, they're still a life, we can't kill life. And I think the common theme here in all of this, in all of these things, is at the center of it is a caring human being who is talented, who is capable, who loves to a fault, and will do anything to help someone else. And I think that's the reason why I love this character so much, is that she's all about service. And I think service is the most noble thing you can do as a human being. Not sacrifice yourself for someone else, but to be in service of someone, because it means that you yourself are still wholly intact as a person. And she is a fully formed human being who loves to help others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, our honorable mentions obviously was just a couple of extra things that we didn't get to really push in on our top 10. Now, of course, we both were mentioning about Sub Rosa, because that dealt with a lot of stuff. I mean, I always saw Sub Rosa as Beverly was, of course, manipulated and abused by an alien entity. There was no ghost, there was no sex, and I will die on that hill. I don't know your thoughts about it, but you also mentioned the host and coming of age, and so I wanted you to kind of mention real quick of what is it about Beverly and the host and coming of age that you wanted to highlight.
Sure. In the host, I wanted to highlight her ability to look beyond the aesthetic. And I know that Gates regrets that last scene with the last host, because she's like, Beverly's not like that. Because Beverly, she falls in love with what is at the core of a human being, not with what or person. It doesn't matter what the exterior is. So that's one of the things I loved about that. But what I loved about coming of age is like, you don't get to ask me questions. She sets firm boundaries with people, and that's a hard thing to do. And it's also something that necessarily that a doctor has to do, because she has to set boundaries with herself as well all the time with her patients. And but I just love that she tells that guy where to go shove his pad.
I mean, everyone was having issue with that character, right? But when he was digging in about Picard's responsible for your husband's death, you could see the look on her face like, I want to punch him, but I gotta be professional. And she's just all like, my relationship with Captain Picard is irrelevant to this investigation, and it is none of your business. And I'm all like, boom! I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's
she
the
gave
Beverly.
him the best stare too. Yeah,
she did. She sure did. I do love that scene myself. Now, real quick about your idea with Sub Rosa.
Sub Rosa for me is a story of addiction, and as someone who has had my own personal struggles with meth use in my past. And things, I see it as an addiction story. I don't see it as like a love story or a ghost story. I see it as an addiction story, and that one of the reasons I have a character in my own script that is an addict, only because I often put recovering addicts and all that into my scripts, but also because I wanted to touch on Beverly's own addiction to Ronan and how has that affected her now and how she got over it, because I was going to bring that element back with my other doctor who has a substance use problem, where he was going to become addicted to a similar type of candle or similar type of life form. and have her be the one that pulls him out, because there is always someone that has recovered that will always pull someone that is in the thick of that addiction cycle. And so I wanted to have this sub story about that, with that character and her as being someone, I broke this addiction, I can help you break it too. Because it is very much, she is an addict in that episode. She's jonesing. It's very apparent, and it's very hard to watch sometimes.
Oh, she was definitely tripping in her quarters, for sure. Like, she was just, she needed her next fix. And that's what exactly what it says in the script. It says she is an addict and needed for her next fix. And a lot of the moments where people think like, oh, she's feeling sexually aroused. No, it actually says she feels like she's under the influence of a narcotic. So this, I'm so glad you mentioned addiction. Now, I am an SA survivor. And so one of the other things of that episode was that he was forcing that energy on her, right? So that's where that violation comes in. And then the moment her body, whatever her chemical, chemistry was, whatever his energy was, it was compatible in the sense that she was becoming an addict and he was feeding off of her energy. And so, yes, it all coincides. So that's why, people make the joke. She has sex with a candle. She's having sex with a ghost. And I know Gates, cracks jokes, and that's fine. I'm late to the party. But when we really dig in deep, especially in the moment where, she fights off Ronan because he hurt Picard. Okay.
Yeah.
And the moment she pushes him off, and all of a sudden you kind of see her like lightheaded. In the script, it says like she is overcome by nausea because the energy is releasing her body, just like if she was detoxing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
So
there's a deeper story there.
It sure is. But even at the end, she's like, you're not a ghost. There's no such thing. You're an anaphasic energy, And I love that part. And she destroyed it. And that just showed how powerful and how strong Beverly is, even though emotionally it took her toll. And the two moments that I also wanted to throw in was cause and effect, because I feel like she single-handedly was the reason why they were able to get out of that time loop, because she was the one that was figuring it out that entire time. Yes, Data helped, blah, 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 fine, great. But it was Beverly that really kicked it into gear. And I also wrote Geek Squad, and here's why. Geek Squad was Wesley, Geordi, and Data. Anytime there was an engineering, something, technobabble, whatever, those three were together trying to figure it out. The moment Wesley left, who stepped in? It was his freaking mother, because he learned everything from her, and she was the one that was stepping in. She learned how to work on Data, knew how to work on his positronic matrix. Even in the game, when all of a sudden Data was unconscious and Wesley couldn't figure out why, he's like, there's only two people that could do this, Geordi and my mother. And I'm like, this is just showcases that Beverly is so smart and so amazing and all of that. And I mean, everyone can love who they want, but when I hear people like Beverly Crusher is a horrible character, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm taking the earrings off. Like, let's go.
Hold my beer. I'm going to be back.
Yeah. So, because there's just so much to her character, even more than like people like Riker or Picard, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't say 10 things about Riker. No offense.
Oh no!
But
Will.
I love Will. Don't get me wrong. But unless he's shagging another chick, another alien in Holodeck 4. I mean, that's just that's what he's known for, right? So, and then there's even moments where she was learning Worf's program, and she's working with the Batleth, and I was like, why didn't we see that in what was that episode with Data and the exocoms? I'm just like, she's just an all-around character that she's inspiring. She is someone that you can look up to, you can learn from, and Gates is the one that makes her such an amazing character because she played her that way.
Yeah.
I always say this, that Gates never likes to be, giving her all the hoot and holler of like, you're the reason why we love Beverly Crusher. And she's like, no, 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 you guys, love the character because of what you guys have done or what you guys have experienced and things like that. But it's because of how she played it. Like anyone, no matter what, there could have been so many different actors playing Beverly Crusher. We would not have gotten, I think, this big of an amazing character if it wasn't for Gates, especially between like just the whole theater and tap dancing.
Well, also because Gates as an actor fought to keep the integrity of that character and to keep, she questioned the writers when they were writing things that may not have been so magnanimous towards women. And so she brought a lot more to that role when it could have easily gotten easily trapped, as it occasionally did, with being either Wesley's mom or Picard's love interest.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I guess that just leads to this final area. Just quick thoughts about Gates McFadden, because again, she is the whole reason that we love this character, and she's also inspiring even outside of it. We lost Gates in season 2 because of misogyny. Let's just say it how it is, guys. But she came back, and I say this a lot. I'm like, she was a little bit behind when she came back because everyone had at least another year with their character, so they got to work and figure it out and figure out their characters and everything. And she kind of had to jump in, but she did it seamlessly. It's like she never left. She never left. And so, we celebrate, on Beverly Crusher Day, Gates McFadden. She is the whole reason for this. She is the whole reason that, fans adore her character. And, I feel like I've learned a lot just from Beverly Crusher, and I've learned a lot from Star Trek, and I feel like I've just become such a better person in the sense of like, if anything were to bring me down or if I'm going through something, I'm like, okay, what would Beverly do? Like, that's just gotta be added. What would Beverly do like in this situation? And I'm not alone. A lot of listeners do that. So again, quick thoughts about Gates McFadden and why you just appreciate everything about her.
Well, she has in recent years become my muse. Her little figure sits on my desk. My little
my little mini Bev.
my little mini Bev. And I also have that one too. I have my little shrine to Beverly on my desk. And the aspects of Gates McFadden that do inspire me are the creative. She is more than just an actress. She's a choreographer. She's the theater. She's a playwright. She's this. She's that. And I find that inspires me as a creative, and it gives me energy to do my work. Even though I'm a writer, I'm an artist. Like I draw, and so like the multifaceted aspects of her and the depth of caring of her as both a person and as a performer, there is a level of empathy that I love that comes off of her just naturally. And I think to be a great actor, you have to have a measure of empathy. And hers just exudes, like from her interactions with fans to her love of the cast and crew to her just her performance as Beverly Crusher. It's just she radiates it in a way that I can't get enough of. It just gives me warm fuzzy feelings as a human being that we're not bad as a people. We're not bad. We can do good things.
Exactly. And even with Gates too, how much she loves her son. Like she always talks about how she always wanted to be a mother and how being a mom was just one of the greatest joys. And I get it. I'm a mom of a daughter, and I totally understand that. and her love for her cats. Like anything that she just, she could just bring joy to. It's just like it highlights our day, and Ed says such a wonderful statement. Now, I do got a couple of things to talk about, so here is the penny for your thoughts.
Penny for your thoughts.
So I got a couple of things from listeners, and we have 30,000 watts over at TikTok had said that he thinks that his favorite Beverly episode was Remember Me, and those were all excellent moments that we had highlighted earlier in the show. And then Banana Troy at TikTok also said that she single-handedly is the reason we had any resolution with the Borg. She was the only one who advocated for Hugh, and without her advocacy, I can't speak. I'm already like tired. She says Seven wouldn't be free, which is so true, and which was what I mentioned. But there was this one particular message that I got. I actually got it today. And so I want to talk about this really quick story from JLC at Instagram. She says, I discovered Star Trek The Next Generation when I was a junior in college. It wasn't all that hard. I was at a university in Birmingham, Washington. I would watch the show in both the US and Canada. It was twice a day, 4 times on Saturday. Now, in 1994, I had no cable, no computer, and no internet. So it was always Star Trek, right? And Star Trek was her treat during her studies. And the return to order at the end of each episode helped to calm her and bring her peace. The hardworking dependability of the characters and their loyalty to a code of ethics all provided hope and determination. But what I loved more than anything about the show was Dr. Crusher. She was capable, confident, and absolutely stunning. I swooned over her red hair, especially the way it contrasted with her blue uniform and lab coat. Now, she says, that summer, I spent many days babysitting my cousins, who she absolutely adores. I introduced them to TNG. We had so much fun cheering on the crew on the Enterprise, giggling at the cheesy parts and reenacting scenes, typically, of course, the cheesy ones. The youngest of all the 3 cousins was a verge on turning 6, and she said that one day she and I decided to write letters to the show's cast members, or rather the characters, since that's how she knew them. Geordi was her favorite because he was also the reading rainbow guy. And she also loved Deanna, too, because of her eyes. She was a life-size Barbie doll to her. She dictated and I wrote, and then I copied, and we wrote out the letters to these actors. And in her letter to Dr. Crusher, she asked about her birthday and whether she was in love with Captain Picard. I love this kid. Months later, my astonished aunt informed me that a letter and an 8x10 signed photo had arrived from Gates. She's like, I guess she forgot to mention this to her aunt, but she was like, I did my best to be a grown-up, but inside I was super jealous that my cousin got this. And then she said also LeVar Burton also sent a cousin a lovely photo and letter. But she says, until Picard, I hadn't regularly revisited the series since Nemesis because life. When I began my long overdue rewatch, I started with the episodes that had Dr. Crusher's storylines, cause and effect, remember me, attached. It was immediately clear that my admiration for her persistence and her insistence had not been misplaced, and neither had my crush. While some folks have interpreted her character as strident and at times ridiculous, aka Sabrosa, I instead see her as forthright, passionate, audacious, and absolutely entitled to moments of ridiculousness, as we are all. And I wanted to share this story, especially because there was always moments where Gates did write out letters and they did the autograph thing and stuff like that. And it was letters that saved Gates, right? From coming back and all of that stuff. So that was super exciting. But, I love hearing stories from other fans and why they love Beverly Crusher and Gates McFadden. And that's what I like to highlight here at Crusher Convo, is that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to bring that out. But we are now ending up all of this, and I'm going to go ahead and do my redhead alert, and we will wrap this up. Ooh. So guys, don't forget that this Friday I will be going live and discussing season 4 of Lower Decks: The Inner Fight with special guest Emmett. We will peel back the layers of Mariner's inner struggle and how Beverly might have made a difference if she were in the episode. I will be live at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so please join us in the chat. And don't forget about my giveaway. Once I reach 1,000 followers on Instagram, which I'm so close, guys, I'm about like 502 on Instagram and a little bit more for YouTube. But once I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and 1,000 followers on Instagram, I will be giving away an autograph of Gates McFadden to a very special listener. So please spread the word and share my content to help me reach my goal. And also don't forget that you can submit a penny for your thoughts by recording off crusherconvo.com, age 60 to 90 second clip, or you can email me your thoughts to crusherconvo@gmail.com, and I will announce your penny live on the air. And of course, my Patreon shout-outs go to Leslie and Dave, who are my Commander patrons, and Chuck and Engineer Mark, who are my Admiral patrons. If you would like to support the podcast and enjoy exclusive extra content, just head over to patreon.com/crusherconvo, and you can sign up for as low as $3 a month. And you know what, Ryan, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Please let my listeners know where they can find you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great fun talking about my favorite redhead. You can find me on the Blue Skies at ryanthomasriddle.com, or you can find me on Instagram at ryanthomasriddle, just my name. I try to keep it simple. You can see my website, also ryanthomasriddle.com, where you can also read Oath as well. It's also on my website.
Perfect. And yeah, guys, read it. It's such a great script. I absolutely loved it. Real quick in the chat, we got the Scare of Scuttlebutt podcast showed up. Hello, Road. Nice to see you. It's been a while. He says, I was thinking of you today, Jesse. Happy Crusher Day. I appreciate that. Anytime they mention Beverly Crusher, they're like, oh, where's Jesse? We got Ed says, great discussion. Thank you. And Jay Marie says, Bomer was such a fanboy of Beverly. Oh, I'm talking about that. Trust me. He is a huge Bevhead, and I'm going to mention that so much. And then Ed says, great to hear the stories. Absolutely. Well, guys, happy Beverly Crusher Day. And to all the fans, like hashtag Bev Crusher Day, look it on the socials. You'll see amazing artwork. You'll see amazing videos and just all the fans pouring in for their love for Beverly. And we want to highlight that. But until next time, like I said, I will be here on Friday, so don't miss it out. But see you next time, guys. Live long and prosper. Bye.
Crusher out.